Hello, my name is Daniela and this is part 2 of learning Blender. So right now we have a basic cube, and like you can see, if you press T, the panel on the left shows up, and if you press N, the panel on the right shows up, and this is where you can see extra add-ons and so forth. G is to grab, as we all know. You can grab it and then press X or Y or Z to move it on that specific axis. So that is the cursor. It's usually in the center of the object, and you can either go on this side panel on the left and rotate, scale, whatever you might need to do, but I do suggest you learn the shortcuts as it improves your workflow. So I just deleted that previous cube and I added another one. So there's many different types of options there at the top. And at the bottom we have the playback, so we can actually see how our animation is looking. The frame obviously starts from 0 to 250. And at the top of there, you can change whether you want it in solid mode, wireframe mode, etc. You can go down at the bottom and change the color if you please to do so. So just click on that base color and change it on anything on the wheel. You can then go up to the top and see all the settings. We are in object mode at the moment, and you can easily go from object mode to edit mode by just hitting tab. I went up to sculpting just to show you that you can make some effects on your shape. Then you can go back to layout, and in that camera icon you can see the render agent is now on cycles. Cycles is more realistic, but it is more on your computer. So I do suggest you work on Eevee, and when you're ready to render out, you can then go back to cycles, because like I said, it is more realistic and it does take a lot more support from your computer. So to render an image, you can go to F12, and to render an animation, it's Control F12. So this is how this shape would look in the rendered image. It's a funny shape. So you can scroll using your wheel on the mouse, and you can also change the light if you wish to do so. I changed it to 4000 watts, and I changed the color of the bulb just to give some sort of effect. S to scale, and this is how the light interacted with the shape. It changed it to like a peach orange color. So you can go back and forth, changing the base color to whatever you might like, rotating it using R, holding down the middle mouse button to change where you want to view your objects. You can pan, you can zoom in and out. Sorry, now I just want to show you all the settings. There you can change the resolution. Looks like a paper coming out of a machine. You can change the frame rates, and it gives you all types of options down at the output as well. So I just wanted to show you how my settings are looking, just so you know. You can then go to the scene properties, and this would basically affect the background of the entire scene. So if you wanted the scene to be a specific color, you won't see it now, but if you hit render, you would see that it completely changes the entire scene to that specific color. So if you might need that, it is useful. So you can change between the settings depending on your preference. There's diffuse, emission, etc., etc., giving you the exact look that you desire. You can go down and choose this orange box, and you can change the name to high or cube, and change whatever the shape you want to name it. You can then render out the image by clicking F12, and as you can see, the scene is completely yellow because we changed the scene color and it made it look so ugly. Yeah, you can add a modifier too. So this is the array modifier. You can go up to deform, you can modify, you can mirror, you can split an edge, you can solidify, you can do a subdivision, you can warp, you can wave, you can shrink. So this is how the mirror modifier looks on this primitive shape. Then you can go down to this particles and press the plus sign, and this will allow you to make particles come out of your shape once you hit play, which is spacebar on your keyboard. And you can go up to hair, and you can see how hair comes out of your shape, which is super cool. I love how the particles look when they fall down. And to kind of just see better, you can hold your middle mouse button. You can also choose fluid, a rigid body, and basically allow your shape to fall down if you go on rigid body and you press play. Or you can put a floor down, and you can basically make that object fall down onto the surface. So I'm adding a simple plane at the bottom, scaling it up, putting it under this purple shape, and then I'm gonna make it a rigid body there. So I did make a mistake and I left it on rigid body type active, and what you want to do is actually make it passive so that stays constant and it doesn't move. And you see I made a problem here because everything is moving down. So I had to go back and change the plane to passive and keep the purple object on active rigid body. So that's the reason it was falling through the plane, is because I didn't put it on passive. I just took a simple cube. You can also add an object constraint. You can limit your rotation by limiting X and Y at the top there. Well, you first have to click the object, which I didn't do. So you have to click the object and then add an object constraint so it knows exactly not to rotate Y, and it won't allow you to rotate on axes X and Y. So the reason it can rotate everywhere is because I didn't add object constraint on that object. I didn't select it, so you have to select it first, and look, now it's like locked in. You can only rotate it on Z, which is super helpful. You can then move down to materials and use base color, subsurface, roughness, sheen tint, anything to change up the material of your object. You can go on the top and press F12 to render image. You can see how this shape is looking right now. You can change the roughness to make it shiny, to make it more rough. You can see how the render is looking. Then you can go down to brush and add in a specific texture, whether or not you have a picture or Blender has its own textures set, like clouds and anything that you may like. You just click on the new button, the plus sign, and you can decide there. And up there in the outliner, you can see we have the camera, cube, and the light. And as you can see, there's a scene collection, and underneath that is a collection. So this is really helpful to organize all your assets in your scene. You can click the little eye to hide the assets. I'm indecisive about which color I want to look at, so I keep changing. You can press H to hide it. As you can see, the cube in the outliner goes like transparent a bit, so that's how you know that the asset is hidden. If you press H, and you can hide it and go back and forth between doing that. You can then add a modifier to your object. As you can see, the array. You can then add another object. I just added Suzanne the monkey because we love her, the little monkey. You can press Alt D to duplicate as much as you like. And I think we're placing Suzanne out of the camera. To select everything, you can just press A and double tap A to deselect everything. Or you can just use the box select to select what you need. You can press 0 to go in your camera. And I'm just moving the Suzanne head in the frame. So I do encourage you to play a little more on Blender just so you get more comfortable knowing the shortcut keys, knowing how to navigate what are you actually doing. You can click on the outliner and add a new collection. You can name the collection. I'm naming it monkeys. I made a spelling error, so I'm going back to rename it to monkeys. And this is really nice for organization because you can just hide that specific collection, and you can press M to move to collection. Super helpful. So like I said, to move to the collection, you can just press M on the object selected, and you can move it all down to that collection, making it super easy for you to hide all of that objects or work on a specific object, change the colors for specific objects. You see, you can click on the eye and just remove all the monkeys one time. Super helpful when you have a lot of assets in your scene. So pressing A twice will deselect everything. Pressing A once will select every single thing in the scene, including the lights and the camera. Little grid on the side is actually for the orthographic view. The camera above that, you have a hand above that, and the zoom above that. As you can see, there are many options for modeling, sculpting, UV editing. So this is what it would look like in modeling. As you can see, you need to change it at the top to edit mode, and you can easily go back and forth by hitting tab. And now you can see the option to move a vertice, and since it's an array, it will mirror and makes your workflow a lot faster when you can add a modifier like array or the mirror, and anything you do on one side will happen on the other side. You can then go to this little dial at the top and change what you want to look at and change the tabs in Blender, whether you want to go to shader editor. As you can see, it's a little squash there, so I'm just scrolling and making it bigger, and this is like you can see. You can customize what you're looking at in Blender super easily and easily save that. But you can go down to the graph editor, the UV editor, image editor, the viewport, the shader editor. The outliner is usually what I like to have there, so you can see everything in the scene. So if you select all the objects, you can rotate on the x-axis or y-axis, and you can just simply render it out. So I do encourage you to practice more with Blender, and in the next episode we will be modeling and starting to create our house. I do recommend you start by doing a house first before characters, as people and nature is so much more difficult and challenging to do. So hard modeling is something to work with first. Thank you so much.